Greetings, I'm Tim, welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're discussing the Jaeger-LeCoultre Duometre Chronograph, 42mm in 18-karat pink gold. You can see and purchase this watch on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images, and of course complete pricing information for this Dueling Movement 42mm pink gold Duometre. Now, it's important to note that on my wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference, this is the 42mm version 1.0 example of the Duometre case. This is the size and the shape that debuted back in 2007 when the watch absolutely took the horology scene by storm. A realization of a century-plus old design concept executed at the production level. The Duometre took a concept that was prototyped in pocket watch form during the 1880s and made it serially reproducible using modern technology, but of course, traditional craft finishing techniques. Now, 42mm across the round of the case, the timepiece is a broad 50.5mm from lug to lug. It's not oversized, but 42mm for what is undoubtedly a dress watch is quite generous. And again, 50.5mm from lug to lug. It fits my wrist well, and I do own this watch myself in white gold, so I can attest as to its fit, but it's a bigger, bolder look than most are used to on a pure dress timepiece. In terms of thickness, it's actually quite slim. Looking thicker than it is, it's only 14mm in girth, and with a conical bezel, the watch is easy to slide underneath a dress cuff or a formal sleeve in spite of its sheer size. But thanks to its size, you get a tremendous amount of gold. The watch is hefty in the hand, and a broad dial that expands to use the full area of the case to the maximum extent. So having 8 separate hands on one dial makes more sense in a larger case size. That's simply the underlying logic of the watch. Now, the strap is one of the best recent Jaeger-LeCoultre alligator leather straps because it is substantial. You can see centrally splined and bolstered. It has a monotone stitch. It's a very rich and dark brown rather than a black. Calfskin on the bottom, alligator leather on the top. It's paired with a substantial double deployant clasp in matching pink gold, entirely polished internally. Again, this is a nice accessory to have because it assures beyond a shadow of a doubt that the watch can't simply pop open and fall off your wrist when you're donning or removing the timepiece at bedside. Now, the watch features a case that's complex. Like everything about the Duometre, it features a great degree of nuance. Now, you can see brushed flanks, a polished bezel with a strong central character line at its lip, and you can see there's a subtle and beautiful bevel about the shoulders of the lugs. The lugs, unlike the screw-fixed lugs of Langas, are in fact welded or soldered on, meaning that double finish is executed between the brushed and polished sections, and the evidence of the welding is meticulously removed by hand, an excruciating project for any experienced artisan, and yet one that's invested 4 times in every Duometre. Now, the dial of the watch is best described as a muted silver. It's somewhere between gray and silver. It has a granular texture, and thanks to the cuts of the individual sub-registers, it has several planes of focus. Now, you'll see how the seconds track outboard is elevated above the inner dial, and each of the sub-registers features circular concentric races for minutes and for hours in the case of the mono counter. Now, when the watch is started using the mono pusher at 2 o'clock, you'll note the blue hands, the cobalt blue hands across the dial, track chronograph time, hours, minutes, seconds, and 1/6 of a second, as you can see on the flying second or foudroyant dial. All the rose gold hands keep track of the civil time or the time of day. Now, there's a power reserve for each wing of the caliber 380. Civil time is the golden hand, and the blued hand, of course, is chronograph power reserve. Both of them feature 50 hours of reserve. Now, you'll also note that there is both a mono counter and a single-digit minutes disc just below the mono counter. So you have hours and tens of minutes, and then individual single minutes being tracked, and it does make it easier to read the watch in practice, as you can quickly distinguish, okay, there's 10 minutes plus 3, that's 13 minutes. It's subtle, but it becomes natural and second nature with use. Now, the Dueling Movement in its first execution, the caliber 380, is spectacular. This is a movement that has not just been engineered, not just been decorated, but self-consciously styled to resemble that great 1881 minute-repeating dead-second pocket watch. You can see each mainspring barrel powering a separate drivetrain meeting at a single oscillator, which acts as sort of a traffic cop, directing power alternately to the chronograph and the civil time. The idea being that there will be no loss of power reserve, nor will there be a loss of amplitude when the chronograph is engaged, and the watch will keep chronometer-grade time with or without the chronograph engaged. Now, F. Pigeon does something simpler with the Chronograph by running the chronograph directly off one mainspring barrel, and while that preserves amplitude, having only one mainspring barrel, the Chronograph will lose power reserve, running 24 hours with the chronograph on rather than its conventional 80 hours. In the Duometre, there is no loss of amplitude and no loss of mainspring power reserve. Now you'll note the column wheel just below my thumb, the oscillator free sprung with gorgeous Côte de Soleil radiating out from the balance, the point of union of the two movements. And of course, it's a 21,600 vibration per hour beat rate, so a little bit statelier. It makes up for the lower beat rate with a larger balance with a higher moment of inertia. Like a Langa, all of the bridges are executed in what would be called German silver in the Langa, but is known as Micourt in the French-speaking watch manufacturing regions. It's untreated, it's a combination of nickel and copper, and therefore it has that golden hue that becomes darker and richer with time. It is beautifully finished, and that to a much higher standard than a conventional Jaeger-LeCoultre. The Duometre represents virtuosity in every single element of its watchmaking, decoration, design, and execution. Like I said, this is a timepiece that's exceptional. Virtuosity in pink gold. You can see it and you can buy it on our website.